Hello, fellow curious creatives out there. This is Mike Kepka, the Curious Creative, coming to you with another podcast where we talk about using video strategies that promise real results for our clients. Today, we have with us Vinnie Mwano, a digital strategy consultant, who says he helps his clients connect with their audience by using what he calls the 8-second video formula. Fun fact, he and his brothers once did the cha-cha to an audience of millions on an episode of Dancing with the Stars, and he himself had a selfie featured in an Apple commercial during the opening ceremonies of the Rio Olympics in 2016. We are so lucky to have this spectacular strategist and showman with us today, Vinnie Mwano. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on The Curious Creative.
You're listening to The Curious Creative with your host and video expert, Mike Kepka. Vinny, tell me about your strategy. When you first meet a client, what is the first thing that you approach them with?
I can definitely tell you that. The first thing that I ask them about is when someone engages with your content, what do you want them to do? What do you want them to feel? Those are the two questions. And typically, those two questions confuse the client because they're always like, oh, you're not talking about how many sales I want to get. You're not talking about where I post. I'm like, no, it's about what you make your audience feel, because that's going to determine what they do next.
And so what's the next step in the process then at that point?
The next part of the process is figuring out what is the call to action? What is it you want the audience to do after they engage through content? And then from there, I always lead with, we need to start by doing a 8-second formula video.
Let's talk about your 8-second strategy. I'm really interested to know how that works and what the thinking is behind that.
In 2015, Microsoft released a study called the Microsoft Attention Span. And the study showcased that the human attention span in the digital realm had shrunk down to 8 seconds. It's still a little bit more than a goldfish, that is. But so I was saying I say to all my clients is that in order to captivate your audience to land on your landing page or to continue the conversation, it's really important that the first video they see is 8 seconds. 8 seconds is nice and short. You don't have to have a huge explainer. You can just get someone excited about what is it that you do and what is it that your organization does to make an impact.
I mean, 8 seconds is so short. Like, how do you decide what to do with the first 3 seconds? Like, tell me the recipe you have to actually get that 8 seconds to be really exciting. It'd be horrible if you had 8 seconds that nobody cared about watching, right? So what goes into that?
Yeah, so have experience doing product videos, testimonial videos, case study videos, and also review videos. And so I'm going to choose the product video. What is it about your product that is the most exciting thing? And can we add a shock value to it? Like, those are the 8 seconds. One example that I always love to give is that there's a company that produces phone cases. And what the person does in the first 3 seconds, he takes the phone and drops it off a cliff or off a skyscraper. And then the next clip you see is him holding the same exact phone and it's intact. It's perfect in place. And I'm like, wait a second. I want to watch more. I want to learn more. And that's the reaction that I want when someone is watching that 8 seconds, for them to be completely in shock, for them to like, hey, what type of device are they actually selling? That's impressive.
How do I get more? You're like it's like the cliff. You're leading them to the edge of the cliff, and then that says, well, I don't know what's next. You're going to have to wait and watch, right?
Or not even wait and watch. It's, I'm going to click. I'm going to get off this social media. I'm going to click to go to your website to learn more about your company. Because that's what the 8-second does. The 8-second formula leads people to the actual landing page of a client's website and gets the audience away from social media.
So after you create that, where does it end up, and how are you getting people to look at it then? Or what's give me sort of is this on TikTok then? Are we doing a LinkedIn strategy? What's the next step for the content you've made?
Before I talk about next steps, I always want to go back to everything that I ever create or discussion that I'm able to create a plan. There's always a comms plan. I believe that it's important for me as the producer to know what the comms plan is. So that way we are going to drive content that goes to a plan that's going to allow people to do exactly what you want the client to do.
When you say comms, do you mean distribution? Is that how we're going to lay it out? And like, give me an example of comms plan, and from your terminology, how does that look like?
Yeah. So comms plan is the purpose of the video, who the audience is. Number three is the call to action. And so when I say comms plan, I'm viewing it as a communications journey plan. And so the 8-second formula came to being because I realized that a lot of companies that I was doing work for, the audience that they're trying to talk to, they actually never went to the website. Like a 3-minute video or a 30-second video was not converting people into the website. And so I needed something that's going to start a conversation that's going to lead people to the actual website for the action to take place, which is, sign up in the mailing list, purchase something, or get in contact with the organizer. And so the importance of the 8-second formula that I realized is like, it was a conversation. So, and then I expanded upon that. I was like, okay, this 8-second formula, if it's a customer journey experience, the first thing that someone sees is this 8-second video. The next thing that they see next is on the website, a landing page that could be a 30-second to a minute long video expanding upon the organization and their ask. So in our case, the 8-second video was the celebration of this person that didn't have a house. Now they're home. Now they have opportunity for employment. And then the longer video, which is 30 seconds to a minute, it goes into telling the testimonial of that individual saying, hey, this organization has allowed me to transition outside the streets. Now I have an opportunity to feed my family. I have an opportunity at life. And so a second chance, essentially, right? And then after that video is done, another video will pop up talking about more in depth of what the organization is doing and also the gala. So it's like, hey, you just saw 2 videos. We want you to come to this event where our goal as an organization is trying to say, bring or house or trying to bring folks outside of the streets into a place of home or employment opportunities. Their goal is trying to reach 100 people for this particular year. And so getting a conversation from a little teaser video to a testimonial and then to a bigger ask of, we want you to come and attend this event.
Sounds a lot like some of the strategy that we've been doing. We call it ACDC. It is creating different kinds of content for different audience members who are at different places. And that starts off with, for us, sort of an educational look at something that a client might have. We call that awareness. And so it's sort of a broad stroke list of interesting things that you might not have known about. And you can get that kind of content out to a lot of different people who didn't know they needed to know anything about that. And then you start honing that down. And like you said, I think with the TikTok earlier, we're able to look at who's looking at those videos, how long they're looking at that. And once they do, we're going to send them another piece of content. Whereas I think, to expand on what you just said, that's when we're going to start telling them a little more of a solution to their pain point. And then the people who watch that second layer of content are going to get the final layer, which we call the decision stage. And that, of course, are people who are they almost sell themselves at that point. They're pretty invested in what you have to offer, what your client has to offer at that point. And when you dangle the call to action there, sign up for this or buy this or become a contributing member, it's almost a done deal at that point, right? But it's hard to find those people right off the bat because you need to funnel them in from a much bigger audience. Tell me about audience. How does audience play into some of what you're looking at for particular clients?
When you say audience, can you be more specific?
Well, I mean, we look at, I think a big part of the equation for us is assessing what the client has to offer and then who they're offering it to. And so that becomes part of our audience, to understand who their consumer is or who they're selling their product or service to. And then from there, we can decide how we're going to create the content and where it's going to go out. Like one company might be better suited for LinkedIn, another company might be better suited for Instagram or TikTok, right? And the two are kind of a separate thing. And then within those little niche platforms, we might have, we're attacking different verticals within that platform, right? So, certainly if we're selling high-end bicycles, I'm not sure that that's going to be on LinkedIn, but that might be an interesting sell on Instagram per se, right? But if we're selling venture capital to a huge tech firm, that very well might be on LinkedIn, right? And we're going to find those people and hone in on those folks on LinkedIn where they're spending their time, right?
And so to answer your question, the audience does play a big factor. And when I mentioned the comms plan, the second thing that I had mentioned was the audience. I'll always tell my clients is that your audience are not looking at your things. The only way you're going to be able to engage with your audience if you spend some advertising dollars. When we live in a time where organic reach is non-existent, the only place that you can get organic reach, meaning that if you're not spending any advertising money, is TikTok. And that's why a lot of the marketers, a lot of content creators are at TikTok, because the more eyeballs that people can see with your organic content, the easier it is for those audience to be converted into your marketing strategy plan.
Our strategy is very specific to promoted content, right? So when I speak of the awareness content that we can get out to a broad audience, that means that we are paying pennies for a CPM, right? We can get a lot of people to look at something for very little amount of money. And that's where you're talking 200,000 people. And then you start honing that audience down. So your decision state content might be several dollars for one CPM. But at that point, they're worth spending that much money on because they've been there before, right? Which a lot of clients out there seem to do that backwards. They think that the first thing they need to do is say, hey, look at me, buy me, we've got the problem solved. Sign up down here. And often that is that's really catering to a very, very small portion of who their audience is, right? So we need to figure out who that audience is.
Yeah, and also I would want to add as well is that the 8-second formula, it gives the client an ability to see what type of content does really well in certain platform before adding those marketing dollars. And so it's one of those things where if an 8-second video does really well on TikTok, say in the first week of that particular video scenario I gave you, got like 300 views on TikTok. It's like, great. Okay, let's post it on Instagram. Let's post it on Reels, and then let's boost it on Facebook. Let's pay some advertisements on Facebook. I always say this is that your audience and the platform where you choose to showcase your content should think about the platform itself. I remember I worked with a friend of mine who their whole motto is recycling textile. So getting clothes donations and then reselling it in a store. One concept that I came up with, we had actually ended up implementing this, is to showcase this fact that every year, every American throws 82 pounds of clothing per year. And so that was the fact. I was like, how do we visually showcase this? That Americans are throwing away 82 pounds of clothing each year. What I did was I said, all right, let's get a cart, let's get a grocery cart, and let's fill it up with clothes. Just get like 3 or 4 different bags of trash bags and just dump the clothes into this food cart. And it's funny because I had kids. Kids were the ones actually throwing the clothes into this cart. And by the time you saw the fact come up, the clothes were overfilling. And so instead of just throwing your clothes away, why not find a place where you can donate your clothes? And this company that hired me to do this video, I was able to help them visually show the impact they're making in the environment, not only in the environment as a whole, but also in the community.
Where'd that video end up running and what happened because of that?
Yeah, the video ran in They ended up posting it on LinkedIn first, and they posted it on Facebook, and then also, I believe, Instagram. Within the first 2 weeks, that particular video saw like 3,000 views.
And is this organic stuff? Is this?
This is all organic. This is all organic. And so it was short enough. And this is also, again, this particular video was published in 2017. And so this is way before YouTube Shorts, way before TikTok. And so thinking about that concept that, yeah, you can make the impact that you're making within the environment or your organization, you can make it seem, you can visually make it so people can see and have a visual element of saying, wow, this company's making this amount of impact. I want to give my clothes to them, or I want to give my services to them.
Right. I can't imagine a world where we're doing that organically. Like, I'd like to see that campaign now and promote it and see if we can get that in front of 1 million people. Right. Like, it's numbers. So if we were to get like 2% of all those people to buy into something, I think that would really be pretty significant. You know, maybe the world has changed in the last 5 or 6 years, apparently, huh? You also did another one with, was it water jugs? It was a different kind of campaign, right? Same client.
The second video that I did for this company called Apparel Impact, the video was focusing on how do you visually show that it takes 713 gallons of water to produce one cotton t-shirt. And so that was my challenge. And I had some ideas, but the idea that the client ended up agreeing on was that I was going to go and have 100 or 200 people hold up a gallon, 1 gallon of water, and on in front of the gallon of water would have the logo of the organization. The client loved the idea. So the challenge for me was, how do I get 100 people to hold this water jug and allow me to take their photo? At the time, I was living in Boston. I was living in Cambridge, and there was a music festival taking place called the Boston Calling. And so I said, "Oh, I'll just buy a ticket, walk down, and I'll ask people if they want to participate in this amazing cause." And I got all the media rights released, and I met 100 people. 100 people agreed to holding this water jug in front of my camera, and it was awesome. I produced the video. The video was shared on LinkedIn first for about a month, and then it was shared on Facebook. Within the first week, the video saw, I think it was like 1,500 views, and what's it called? My client ended up reaching out to me, saying, "Hey, just letting you know, the video is getting a lot of good tractions. People are reaching out to me, and there's actually a company in New York, upstate New York, that reached out to me and saying and asked about collaborating with the company, becoming partners." And so I just want to like at the time I didn't understand the impact that I was making as a filmmaker, but as a video strategist. And I recognized one thing is that facts and numbers can only speak this much volume. But when you add visuals to people with it, then your whole entire message completely changes. People are able to visually see the impact. And Mike, I totally agree with you. I would love to see like a good sponsored funds to be added to those videos I did to allow more eyes on those videos now and see if it's going to make a bigger impact.
Right. Maybe you should reapproach them and say, "Hey, remember those videos? Well, we're shifting what we can do with them." That'd be kind of exciting.
And so for me, an example would be, there's a company that does textile recycling. They hired me back in 2017 for me to create short videos that were engaging, impactful, and had a strong call to action of getting more sponsors or partnerships. And so I said, all right, what are the most boring facts that you have about textile recycling? And the CEO of the company said, well, it takes 713 gallons of water to create one cotton t-shirt. And I'm like, okay, well, visually, we can show it two different ways. We can have water from the Niagara Falls coming down, and we can animate and add like someone holding a cup. Or how about we have people hold up a gallon of water with the company logo on it? And how about if we have 700 people hold that?
So, Vinny, tell me about a great success you've had.
So in 2017 is when I started using the 8-second formula with my clients.
What's the most ideal project for you? What if somebody could give you anything you were looking for? What would it be? Your dream project, Vinny.
My dream project would be working with a company or brand that has a philanthropic side. So, an example, I would love to work with Adidas or Puma and showcase the importance of protecting your feet. Like we all understand this concept that in order to make sure that our body functions at its high capacity, we have to cover our feet. We have to wear gloves when it's cold. But like as a dancer, every film that I make, it always involves movement because I believe that when you're seeing someone moving, it could be walking, it could be running, like your mind automatically is able to connect with it a lot more than when you see someone just standing and talking head.
You said philanthropic. That makes me think that you're looking for companies to partner with that have a mission that you align with. Is that on par? Or
Yeah, that's definitely on par. I believe that when I say yes to a project, I'm not only bringing my expertise or my team members' expertise, but I'm also bringing my heart and soul to it. Because as a creative, when you are coming up with something and giving life to something, that's part of you essentially. And I don't feel that it is good to produce something that I don't believe in.
tell me about Vinny the person. I understand you're quite the dancer. Vinny, where are you from originally, and how did you get into dancing? And it's
Yeah, so I am originally from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I came to the States as a refugee and I started dancing at a very young age. I always like to say this is that some families like to have board games and go out for movies. Growing up, we didn't have those resources to go to movies as a family together, especially because I'm one of four boys. And so what we did was we danced. We moved the couch and we just had dance battles inside the house. And through those dance battles and I've been an athlete all my life. So varsity sports, travel, all those things, even a college athlete. I've recognized that even though I didn't speak English well, but when I danced with my friends and my brothers, we spoke the same language. And then that's the same thing when it came to this with sports, same thing when it came to the arts. And then I recognized that I wanted to share those moments and I wanted to capture those moments. And that's when I picked up a camera. That's when my mom was like, here's a point and shoot, a Canon point and shoot. And then I just went around taking videos, photos of my friends. And it led me to go deep in the research question of how do human beings find connection and how can I capture that?
yeah, so I was a photojournalist in a past life, and aside from studying photojournalism in college, I also did sociology as a minor in college, and a very similar thought pattern I had. I like watching people interact with each other, and that whole process is sort of where the magic and the whole purpose for picking up the camera and sort of replicating that for another person to see is kind of where I come from too. That's interesting. So, what age were you when you decided that maybe video was something you would do as sort of a profession?
To be honest, I never thought of video as a profession. It was always something that I did, or I was around some amazing film directors, amazing award-winning photographers, and during high school, I found a lot of my time being spent on sets, being a PA, just helping out, and then one day, one of the directors doing a music video at a club. It was like a Sunday, and it was filming a music video. And the director was like, "Hey, can you take the 5D Mark II and just like do some behind the scenes shoots?" I was like, "Okay." So I ended up doing a lot of the behind the scenes shoots of that particular event, and then the director really appreciated and liked my lens, how I was able to capture and tell stories. And so I got brought on bigger sets. I want to give a huge shout out to my older brother, Vinnie Mwano. He had a lot of his friends that went to Full Sail University, Columbia, and a lot of his friends were all creative, and a lot of them went into the production world. And so whenever they came back home during the summertime, they would have all this gear and all this aspirations of trying to tell really cool stories. If that's advertisements or that's a short documentary or long feature length film, and they would invite me because they knew that I would help out on set. And it came to me that I could become a full-time video and a marketer right after I graduated college. I got my degree in political science, which essentially has helped me. Well, my degree is in political science and a minor in international affairs. And I joke and tell folks that I use my degree every single day because of the analytical skills that I've gained within that particular science. And so when I graduated college, I was like, I don't want to go to law school. I want to I want to pursue marketing and video strategy and storytelling. But I didn't have any avenue for me to actually get into that field. And then I looked at my phone, and a client had reached out to me and say, "Hey, Vinny, you helped build this website a couple of years ago. Is it possible you can help me film for this event that's happening in 2 weeks?" And so I recognized that I graduated college with having at least 5 or 6 clients like on retainer. And I recognized that a lot of them were video and a little bit marketing. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just pursue this. And so that's how I realized that I could actually have a career in video marketing. And I didn't want to do weddings. I didn't want to do event videography. I wanted to do brand content and help clients control their own narrative and enhance their sales and grow their brand engagement. And I've been doing it ever since.
I love it. That's really great. Would like to think I'm in a very similar place. If I had the chance to turn down clients that didn't align with my thought process, or I felt like they weren't in the right place for the messaging that I'm trying to do good for the world, then I think maybe I ought not work with them. Vinny, it has been so great to have you on The Curious Creative today. I always give my guests the chance to say the last word. Do you have a piece of golden information for our audience now?
Yeah, I do. As the landscape of social media is changing rapidly, I want to encourage any brand that's trying to connect with their audience. And if you have a good email list, think about what would it look like to bring your audience into one room? What would it look like for you to engage and have your audience feel like they're part of your community in real life, not just in digital life? And so I encourage you to think about that and continue posting, because that's the only way we can engage with people that we want to engage with.
Sounds right on par for what we talk about on The Curious Creative, which is results-based video strategy for our clients. Well, there you have it, Curious Creatives out there. Another half hour down the drain listening to what we're talking about, results-based video strategy. Vinny, thanks again, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.